Do you ever rewatch season 1 of Stranger Things and just think, this show used to be so good? If you don't know me, and you probably don't, I am what you would call a serial shipper. I love it, I revel in it, and it is an aspect of media that I look forward to upon every new release. That being said, what happened here? And why doesn't it work? Romantic or not, in books, movies, and TV shows of substance, character relationships should enhance the story, not hinder it. And the ones on Stranger Things have unfortunately come to do the latter. That is what we're going to talk about here today. First, I just have to get this out of the way. I believe that the demographic for the show is a lot younger than the Duffer Brothers initially anticipated. If you go back to season 1, the color palette was a lot more muted. The adults would be casually smoking a lot more often, and the whole vibe just seemed much more mature. Every season that followed became more gimmicky than the last. One thing that's become clear about Stranger Things is that more so with each passing season, it has sacrificed its narrative and storytelling potential for fan service. Moreover, the fans' intense focus on romantic pairings in the show has undoubtedly swayed the Duffer Brothers and has caused them to dig themselves into a bit of a creative hole. This is not surprising. With them only having their first season mapped out in the very beginning and it being as popular as it was, the rest of the show's arc and prioritization of certain characters had a lot to do with what the fans wanted to see, not necessarily what would have been good for the story. Mostly for nostalgic reasons, my personal favorite season is actually season 2, but season 1 is indisputably the best season, and it's because the Duffer Brothers didn't have any noise from their much younger fan base that they would accumulate. This brings us to the main focus of this video. Today we are going to be looking into how some of the most popular ships of the series have caused it to essentially lose its sense of identity rather than enhance it. Moreover, we are also going to be looking into the characters themselves and how these relationships have actually slowed and ruined some of their character arcs. There are obvious exceptions to this, which we'll talk a little bit about at the very end, but for now, let's talk about perhaps the most controversial topic in the entire run of the show, Mileven versus Byler. I want to start this out by saying that I am quite impartial to this whole situation. I believe that Mileven peaked in the earlier seasons, and I really couldn't care less about Byler. Well, there is one thing I would care about, but we'll get to that a little bit later. My point is, this makes me a very good person to analyze this topic because I will be unbiased and I will be fair. In general, the intense demands and noise from fans, especially when it has to do with ships, can put a great deal of pressure on some showrunners, and the Duffer Brothers are no exception to this. It's safe to say that Mileven and Byler are both pretty popular ships in the Stranger Things fandom with very vocal fans. And the pressure that the Duffer Brothers have evidently felt because of this has actually resulted in character development standstills and strained relationships. This became a lot more noticeable in season 3, which was, in my opinion, when the show really started to feel a lot more like a kid's show. The color palette was a lot brighter, and overall there were a lot more winks and jokes than ever before. With this, some of the characters also lost a lot of depth. Joyce, I believe, is a very good example of this. I remember back in 2019, there were a lot of memes about Joyce, like, season 1, her son was taken and went missing. Season 2, he was possessed. Season 3, why are all these magnets falling off my fridge? That's neither here nor there. Let's start with Will. I cannot be the only one who felt that he was completely wasted in seasons 3 and 4. His character was utterly sidelined, and he didn't do anything except get those goosebumps on the back of his neck. I understand wanting to give his character a break considering all he went through in those first 2 seasons, but at the same time, that was part of the reason why those first 2 seasons worked so well. He was always the bridge between our world and the Upside Down, and while that still existed in the 3rd and 4th season, it was ultimately reduced to goosebumps on the back of the neck. While his yearning for Mike becomes more prominent in season 3, I also don't love the way they went about it.
I have seen into the future, and I've seen that today is a new day. A day free of girls.
You're destroying everything, and for what? So you can swap spit with some stupid girl? Elle's not stupid. It's not my fault you don't like girls. I mean, what did you think, really? That we're just gonna sit in my basement all day and play games for the rest of our lives? Yeah. I guess I did.
I'm not saying that Mike was right or anything, and I obviously feel bad for him, but at the same time, Will needs to read the room a little bit more.
What is happening right now? Sakusa time.
Well, it's so early.
No! It's a distraction! A trap! Do not answer it! But no!
Yeah, but what would we say?
We'll say nothing! The Kuazar tribe still needs your help.
Considering all he's been through, I understand the reason for his nostalgia and his desire to keep things the way they are for as long as possible, but at the same time, after being taken in season 1 and possessed in season 2, his arc in season 3 falls quite flat, and in season 4, I feel like he somehow does even less. That is something that I did appreciate about season 5, is that it refocused on Will. He really is the character that everything started with and everything goes back to in this series, and in my opinion, he is one of the most interesting characters. Season 3 was not Mike's best season either, and I think it's actually because they realized that he was inadvertently in the middle of this weird-ass love triangle. This was the season that it really became visible that that was what was happening, which resulted in some terribly cringy moments.
I dump your ass.
Please address me by my full name.
What?
My full name!
They're conspiring against me.
That's what you're concerned about right now?
It's not my main concern, it's just a sub-concern. Did you spy on me? That's totally against the rules.
I make my own rules.
Figure it out together, okay?
I feel him.
Just tell me what happened.
He's activated.
I need you to.
It's not my fault you don't like girls.
He was not a great friend to Will or really anyone else in the season, which is such a stark contrast to what we knew him as prior to this. In season 2, he was always the first one there for Will, and he was ready to die for Dustin in season 1. Where was the boy who stepped off a cliff? Where was he? I have to talk a little bit about 11. While she had an obvious character decline in the 4th and 5th seasons, I don't know how much of that has to do with Mike and or Will. Let's discuss. She's definitely not one of those female characters who was strong in the beginning but has since been reduced to a love interest. Like, she definitely hasn't been reduced to just Mike's girlfriend. If anything, it's actually the opposite. Mike having been effectively reduced to 11's boyfriend since season 3. That being said, I will say this. She was one of the least memorable characters in season 5, and that is a damn shame. With the exception of her scenes with Hopper, which are always great, her scenes fell utterly flat for the better part of the season. While I don't necessarily associate this decline with her relationship with Mike or anyone else, it couldn't have helped. I can't help but think that the writers distancing her relationship with the younger cast and watering down her character in general this season might have possibly been done to put Byler on a more even playing field. Whether there's any truth to that or not, season 5 did not see her very often with the rest of the group. And this didn't seem to give her as much motivation or drive as we've seen from her in previous seasons. I feel as though in season 3, season 4, and especially season 5, the Duffer Brothers have realized how popular both of these ships are, and they tried to entertain the idea of both sides. So that being said, let's talk about what happened this season. As some people might know from the short that I uploaded a few weeks ago, I did not watch season 5 until it was all out. So I didn't watch volume 1 before volume 2 came out. I didn't watch volume 2 before the finale came out. I watched all of it when it was all out, Let me tell you, after Volume 1 came out, with all of the things that people were posting, they had me thinking that something might actually happen between Will and Mike. Some people on the internet were really acting like all of their scenes were together, everyone else was saving the world while these two are off living in a rom-com, and Mike has this huge epiphany of what's been in front of him the whole time. I honestly don't know what I was expecting, but after I watched Volume 1, I didn't get it at all. Maybe it's because I wasn't actively looking for all of the nuances of their interactions like I would with Johnlock or Wolfstar or Percabeth or Stolitz or Huskerdust or Finbella or anybody that I would actually care about. But there were maybe 2 things that I picked up on. Other than that, I did not get a whole lot of vibes that something would ever actually happen. I would say the closest it came to that was the expression on Mike's face when Will channeled Vecna's powers for the first time, but even that, I'm sure I probably had a similar expression on my face. I was blown away by that moment. I also have not forgotten about that cute conversation of Will being a sorcerer. On Will's end, you could definitely tell that he's into Mike. On the flip side, I don't know. Mike has always been an inherently caring and intense person in general, so it could definitely be chalked up to that. But he's also been known to instinctively hide the way he feels. Were they flirting? However you choose to interpret it is up to you. However, I am now going to say something that might make some people angry. It really was not as queer-baited as people are making it out to be. I feel as though a lot of Byler shippers drew a parallel between Robin and Vicky's dynamic to Will and Mike's, given Will and Robin's conversation about how Robin knew she and Vicky liked each other. While understandable to make this comparison, this isn't quite the parallel that ends up being true. Rather, a much stronger tether is forged during Will and Robin's conversation about her feelings for Tammy Thompson. It is Robin's feelings for Tammy, not Vicky, that is meant to parallel Will's feelings for Mike. I actually appreciated this during his coming out scene. I'm glad that it was not about Mike, it was about Will. At the end of the day, it's about his self-discovery and self-acceptance. And all in all, I thought it was a beautiful scene. While many have called the "he's my Tammy" line a cop-out, I also feel that there are a lot of things that people forget or even choose not to acknowledge. Whether or not Mike had any feelings for Will can be interpreted however you want, and frankly, I don't care. Like I've said, I have grown completely indifferent. Regardless of whether he does or does not, the fact of the matter is, he is still in love with 11.
You don't need it. Still pretty?
Yeah. Pretty. Really pretty.
Al, where are you? 11! Al!
I called you every night. Every night for
353 days.
I can't lose you again.
I don't know how to live without you. I feel like my life started that day we found you in the woods. And I've loved you every day since. They traveled to a faraway land, somewhere beautiful.
Do you think that could be real? For us?
Yeah, of course.
I am saying this from a completely unbiased standpoint, once again. Putting any possible feelings for Will aside, Mike canonically says and feels all of this for Elle. That being said, Will has grown to love her as well, and I believe the two of them have a very special connection. This brings me to the elephant in the room that so many Byler shippers have perpetually ignored, which is how cruel it would be to 11 if Will and Mike ever got together. She has been to hell and back for these people, and has saved their lives many, many, many times over. Could you imagine, from her point of view, after everything else that she's been through, her boyfriend and her stepbrother beginning an affair? She has been hurt all her life. Could you imagine the people that she trusts the most out of anyone hurting and betraying her too? My heart would absolutely break for her. It would be awful for her. That is my main issue with Byler. It's not, I don't think they're a bad match or they don't have chemistry or anything like that. It's that romance and courtship would be an inherent betrayal of someone they love. I actually remember having a conversation with my sister about this after season 4, but I remember saying if Will and Mike were ever to get together, Eleven would have my complete permission to go on any kind of rampage that she wants and kill anybody that she wants to. Now, with both Will and Eleven being so quintessential in the defeat of Vecna, one thing that I would have changed about the season is that Mike should have been in more danger. I think that would have allowed for a much stronger narrative and character building opportunity. What's more, I feel like the fans would have really loved it. So again, I don't want to cater to fan service. I don't think that is how you should write a show, but I'm just saying they would have loved it. I enjoyed Holly and Derek. Both of them were very good, I thought. But at the end of the day, a lot of those scenes took time away from the scenes of the characters that we all know and love. Like, imagine for a second if Mike had gotten stuck with Max in Henry's brain. Because those two have always kind of hated each other, it would have been both funny and an ultimately more satisfying payoff because they would have had to learn how to work together and get along. Another example of Mike being put in immediate danger this season would be if he had gotten possessed somehow, like Will had in season 2. This would have been really interesting because he is normally the glue that ties the rest of the party together, and I would have liked to see how they could figure out how to function without him. And also, if he did end up getting possessed and he could not control himself, if he had to fight Eleven and or Will, that would be so much more entertaining, I feel like, and interesting to watch than the scenes that we ended up getting with the three of them. You don't need me to tell you this, but either one of these scenarios would have also given Eleven and Will some more motivation and some more anger and passion for defeating Vecna this season. Now, there have been some people on the internet that have not been very happy with the ending of the series, and a lot of that centers around the three of them. So I thought I'd talk about it here. People have been saying how much they hate it, about how they think it's the worst ending ever, and I find that simply absurd. Clearly, some of y'all haven't seen Game of Thrones. Once again, this might make some people angry, but just because it's an ending that you don't want to see or makes you upset doesn't mean that it's an inherently bad ending. Narratively, it made sense. It made sense for Eleven's ending to be ambiguous and for her to not end up with the rest of the group. I actually rather liked it. With all of the death avoidance that the Duffer Brothers have always had with their main cast, I really appreciated the boldness of that decision on their part. Also, I liked the parallel that it drew back to the end of the first season. However, knowing the Duffer Brothers and knowing how much they really do cater to fan service, I would not be surprised in the least if in the coming years they would revisit the ending and make more content like a TV movie or something, reuniting Eleven with everyone else. I don't know if they will. They say right now that this is it, but they might change their minds. Like I said, they have been swayed by the noise of the fans in the past. So if anyone wants to keep loudly hating the ending, they might cave. Oh, you know what would have been funny? At the end of the scene when that guy comes up to meet Will, it would have been funny if his new love interest was Jack Dylan Grazer. Because, you know, he was Finn's character's / love interest in It. So I thought that would have been a kind of a funny little wink to that, but oh well. All right, let's move on to the second ship war that has been very prominent over the past decade. Jancy versus Stancy. This, I would say, even more so than the former, is an instance in which romance, if you could even call it that, has overshadowed broader story arcs and potential character growth. As characters, Steve, Nancy, and Jonathan all had such promise, and honestly, a majority of it went in the toilet. This became very prominent in season 4 when they decided that it was a good idea to resurrect the love triangle. Not only was this extremely cringeworthy, but it also was detrimental to all 3 of their character developments. I really thought that it was clear in seasons 2 and 3 that they had put this to bed. Let's start with Mama Steve. Now, one thing that I thought was really happening with Steve throughout season 2 was him realizing that he deserves a lot better. During that season, Nancy drunkenly calls their relationship bullshit, and she actually cheats on him. At the end of the season, they make a mutual decision to end their relationship, and this feels right. At the end of season 3, he says blatantly that he's not in love with Nancy anymore, and while this could be chalked up to some misplaced feelings for Robin at the time, he sounded like he meant it. That's why it felt so backwards in seasons 4 and 5 that he suddenly had feelings for Nancy again. I wouldn't have even minded if they'd played with it like in season 4, volume 1, he thought he had feelings for Nancy again, but then in volume 2, he realizes that he just misses being in a committed relationship. I actually think that would have been a beautiful arc for him in season 4, and then in season 5, he could finally meet his person. But instead, they double down on his feelings for Nancy in volume 2, having him confess that he's always loved her, and then having a stupid dick war with Jonathan during season 5. That being said, let's talk a little bit about Jonathan. If you've seen my video on Stranger Things season 4, you will know how frustrated I was with what they did to him that season. He was totally wasted in more ways than one. He was one of the main characters in season 1, and I feel that more so with each passing season, he's become less and less valued. I know that it was meant to be a coping mechanism for his dying relationship with Nancy, but they went about it in the worst way. Not only scrapping his relationship arc with Nancy, but also scrapping his dynamics with Will and Joyce as well. He definitely had more to do in season 5 and was more likable again by the end.
Just hold on!
No, there's nothing we can do. Come on.
Don't touch him!
But again, his rivalry with Steve was so unnecessary and juvenile. Like, they're supposed to be adults, and honestly, both of them acted more mature in season 2. Jonathan, I would say, is an excellent example of the showrunners throwing a less popular character in the background to appease the fans. Correct me if I'm wrong, but I don't really see that many people freaking out over Jonathan to the extent that they would Steve or Eddie. And that's a shame, because I've actually always really loved Jonathan. He has the sweetest relationship with Will. He is an amazing son to Joyce, and he is so resilient, especially in season 1. Looking at seasons 1 and 2 Jonathan, his character arc, or most of it, was clearly meant to be learning how to let other people in.
Trust issues. Trust issues.
That being said, his relationship with Nancy, at least in the earlier seasons, I believe was quite quintessential to this and fulfilled it quite well. It's evident in season 3 that being with her has taught him a lot and has caused him to come out of his shell a little bit. That's one of the reasons why season 4 was such a huge letdown. Let's talk about Nancy. She was so human in the beginning of this series, and she really, in that first season or 2, grew into herself and learned so much about herself. And I would say that none of that really had anything to do with Steve or Jonathan. That being said, season 4 was not her best season. After everything that she and Jonathan had been through by that point, the idea that she would immediately run back to Steve as soon as things get moderately difficult with Jonathan felt colossally out of character. This is especially so considering what's brought to light in season 2, which is that she was only with Steve in season 2 because she didn't think Jonathan would ever say anything. What's more, Murray actually deduces that she doesn't have real feelings for Steve, and she can't deny it. And her entertaining Steve in season 4 actually directly contradicts her self-assessment in season 2.
Retreat. I don't retreat.
Because that's exactly what she did. She and Steve have outgrown each other, and that is okay. She doesn't have to end up with Jonathan. It's fine that she didn't end up with Jonathan. I am saying it is a character thing. The point is not she should choose Jonathan over Steve. The point is that if she regresses back to Steve, she regresses her character arc as well. I really do believe that their storyline in season 4 and early season 5 was for fan service more than anything else. They really undid Nancy's character development in order to entertain Stancy a little bit longer. Hope it was worth it, fellas. Ultimately, while this triangle worked in the earlier seasons, while there was still room for growth and development for all 3 of these characters, revisiting it in the later seasons has effectively backpedaled on said development. Rather, it has actually reduced all 3 of these once promising characters to their relationship status. Unfortunately, this was what a majority of these characters' agendas were centered around in season 5. I'm just glad that at least Steve had some growth and evolution in his relationship with Dustin. Those 2 are the best. Before I move on, I just wanted to mention, I actually did rather like the Jancy breakup scene. Was I rooting for them to work out? Maybe. But I can also appreciate the scene for how natural and realistic it felt. And also Jonathan's realization that if he did propose, it would have only made things worse. Moreover, even if they're not together forever, they still have a very profound connection, and no matter where they go, they'll always remember that. Now, all things considered, the Duffer Brothers did actually subvert some fan expectations this season, which I believe allowed for a more unpredictable narrative than at least season 4. I was definitely more surprised at different moments throughout season 5. Look, was Stranger Things ever going to be as good as it once was? No, but they did fix some issues with season 4 in season 5. They did leverage a great deal of unexpected pairings and platonic dynamics, and even saw Will and Nancy's arcs ending in self-discovery over romance. And I have to say, it was quite commendable, I thought. And I think something that a lot of Stranger Things fans that were angered by the ending need to hear is that truly ambitious character and story writing a lot of the times has to do with challenging the audience's comfort. Alright, so I thought that I would end this video on a more positive note, and we're going to talk about the 2 Endgame ships that actually worked. Now, Lucas and Max actually ended up having a beautiful evolution throughout this series. I, once again, did not like them in season 3. I thought that Lucas deserved a lot better, and he deserved someone who adores him. And at the time, I didn't think that Max did.
I guarantee you, him and Lucas are like, totally wall dump his ass. Is Mike a good kisser? God, what I wouldn't give to see their stupid faces.
But ultimately, the reason why their relationship ended up working so well in the end is that they actually did improve as people and grow as people, and they inspired one another to do so.
I didn't even need it. I just needed you.
I just absolutely love Lucas. I think he deserves the world, and I am so glad that he got his happy ending with Max. They really, really do deserve it. That being said, Joyce and Hopper also deserve it. They have been laying groundwork for them since, I would say, season 1, really. And I have said this many, many times over, but I love a slow burn. Of course, I loved her with Bob too, and part of me will always mourn Bob, but I mean, Joyce and Hopper, it's so hard not to be happy for them at the end of the series. It's an ultimately very satisfying payoff for both of them. It's so amazing to see her with someone who treats her better than Lonnie ever could. And on the flip side, it shows maturity on Hopper's end as well. He clearly will treat Joyce much better than he treated Sarah's mother or probably a whole string of other women before her. But the real question at the end of the series is Holly dating Derek now? Alright, thank you ever so much for watching. If you like this video, please do not forget to like it and subscribe down below for more fun videos from me. Thank you so much if you watch this until the end. I don't know how many people are going to watch this. I feel like my Stranger Things videos are kind of a yo-yo. I feel like they could go either way. So thank you so much for watching again, and I hope that you have a wonderful, amazing day. Bye!